O'Sullivan, so and then I'll go up to Tánaiste.
Right, thank you very much, Minister. As you know, Deputy Smith was saying that other events have pushed Syria down the agenda, but I think the one area that has been pushed even further down the agenda is the Middle East peace process, and it's very much on my mind because I was in Palestine just a couple of weeks ago. There's no doubt about the settlement issue being very oppressive and being very threatening. And, you know, actually, apart from the moral and the ethical aspects to the settlements, there's also a major environmental and ecological one, the extent of building that's going on and the pressure on water in a very small area. And I don't think it's doing the environment any good apart from the other aspects there. And it was interesting that meeting people there on both sides. We met Israeli people and we met Palestinian people. That I don't get a sense that the two-state solution is really as making as much progress as you were suggesting and what you were saying there. Certainly people on the ground, ordinary people we met, people who were kind of left-wing Israeli people, those among Palestinian people, not political people, but ordinary people, certainly weren't looking at a two-state solution as being achievable in their lifetime. The other one then, of course, obviously on Syria, and while it's extremely welcome that the chemical weapons issue is being dealt with, I think it is taking attention away from the other very serious suffering that's going on with other weapons that are being used. And I know we spoke before about Ireland supporting the humanitarian corridors, the ceasefire, so that humanitarian can go in. I mean, it's just recently requested by Valerie Amos, and it doesn't seem to be being regarded at all that there should be this access for food and medicine to go in. And after 3 years of appalling suffering, there doesn't seem to be any end on the civilian end of things. And while, okay, these talks are looking at political solutions, in the meantime, there's nobody really pushing on the humanitarian in the same kind of way. Just as a point of information, EU Special Representative Leon will be coming to Ireland. We're hoping at the beginning of February for an AWAPA-sponsored event on reconstituting constitutions. And there's some members of Parliament from the Arab Spring countries who are going to come and attend our Constitutional Convention meeting at that stage. Just on the Burma issue, and I did have questions in with you about the Rohingya people as one of the ethnic groups in Burma who have been suffering a lot of human rights abuses. And I'm just wondering, has that come up in your discussions on Burma? I have some points I'd like to make on the African situation, but I'll leave them for your next speech, I think.
We talked on the Middle East peace process issue. Yes, the continuing blockade of Gaza, the continuing expansion of settlements, the issue around the Bedouin communities. I visited some Bedouin communities when I was in the Middle East last year. These are all issues that are undermining the peace discussions and, as I said earlier, are threatening the prospects for a two-state solution. It is in the interests of both the Palestinian people and Israel, and indeed the wider region, to have this issue resolved. And there is now an opportunity. There is engagement. Secretary Kerry, who has taken a very, very keen, President Obama, taken a very keen interest in this issue and have committed themselves to it. The European Union has for quite some time been seeking to have a robust Middle East peace process and peace negotiations proceeded with. The European Union has a particularly strong role, I believe, to play in the whole issue in relation to the economic relationship that Europe has with Israel and Palestine, and the potential for that economic relationship into the future. And I think that's going to be an important dimension to it. The fact that discussions are underway does not mean that we don't continue our pressure on Israel in relation to the blockade on Gaza and in relation to the continuing settlements. I believe that we have to continue. To do that. Mention has been made of a number of what were called competing crises. On Syria, as I've said earlier, the humanitarian situation, fate of children, and so on. that is our priority in relation to Syria, and that is the emphasis that we're giving to our engagement on Syria.